A mother and daughter vanish without a trace, leaving behind a wig, a burner phone, and a note that reads, asterisk, "We're safe now. Don't look for us." Asterisk, what began as a missing child case soon unraveled into a web of false identities, hidden pasts, and a chilling question. Was Karen Buzzard running from danger or running from the truth? The morning sun had just begun to rise over the small Missouri town when Karen Buzzard called 911 to report that her 7-year-old daughter, Melodee, had vanished. According to her, they were preparing to leave the roadside motel after a night's stay, bags packed, and car running. She turned her back for only a moment, she said, and when she looked again, her daughter was gone. The parking lot was empty, quiet except for the hum of insects and the distant sound of trucks passing on the highway. Within an hour, local law enforcement arrived, marking off the area with yellow tape, while search dogs traced scent trails that ended abruptly near a patch of gravel behind the building. Detectives questioned guests and staff, but no one recalled seeing the child that morning. Karen's voice trembled as she described her daughter's pink backpack, her mismatched socks, her missing front tooth. News crews soon gathered outside the motel, cameras aimed at the teary mother as she pleaded for her little girl's safe return. Yet behind the sympathy, investigators sensed something off in her tone. Her story changed slightly each time she retold it. The exact time she claimed to have last seen Melodee kept shifting. A neighboring witness mentioned seeing Karen's car leave briefly that morning, though Karen insisted it had not moved. When police reviewed nearby security footage, the motel's only camera was conveniently pointed away from the parking area due to recent maintenance. Despite a massive search involving helicopters and volunteers, not a single clue surfaced. No footprints, no discarded belongings, nothing. As daylight faded and tension thickened, detectives began to wonder if this was truly a random disappearance, or the start of something far more deliberate and complicated than anyone could imagine. During the initial search of Karen Buzzard's vehicle, officers expected to find the usual items, snack wrappers, toys, maybe a child's blanket. Instead, they uncovered something that instantly raised suspicion. Beneath the driver's seat, sealed inside a clear plastic bag, lay a short blonde wig, a pair of oversized black sunglasses, and a cheap disposable cell phone with no SIM card. It was an odd combination, and when questioned, Karen brushed it off, saying it was part of a costume she had used for a school fundraiser months ago. The explanation sounded casual, almost rehearsed. Detectives made note of it, but decided to dig deeper. When forensics examined the wig, they discovered faint traces of adhesive residue inside the cap, suggesting it had been worn recently. The disposable phone, though empty, contained a faint fingerprint on the back cover, later confirmed to be Karen's. Investigators began reviewing her financial transactions from the week before Melodee's disappearance and noticed she had purchased hair dye, prepaid gas cards, and multiple sets of children's clothes in different sizes. Then came the footage that shifted the investigation entirely. Surveillance from a gas station 2 towns away showed Karen wearing that same blonde wig 3 days before Melodee vanished. She appeared tense, checking her surroundings, and notably, she was alone. The timestamp contradicted her earlier claim that she had been home with her daughter that evening. Detectives couldn't ignore the mounting inconsistencies. The wig was no longer a quirky leftover accessory. It was evidence of deception. Why would a mother disguise herself and use burner phones in the days leading up to her child's disappearance? The discovery cast a long shadow over Karen's image as a grieving mother, hinting that the truth behind Melodee's vanishing might be far more calculated than anyone had dared to believe. As investigators traced Karen Buzzard's movements, they uncovered a peculiar trip that took place just 2 weeks before Melodee vanished. It wasn't part of her normal routine, nor had she mentioned it to friends or family. Credit card statements showed she had driven hundreds of miles south, from Missouri to a rural town in Tennessee, stopping at several gas stations, roadside diners, and small motels along the way. The journey appeared spontaneous, yet every purchase seemed methodical: fuel at exact intervals, cash-only transactions, and no calls from her personal phone. When questioned, Karen claimed she had visited distant relatives for a short break, but no relatives could be found in that region. Investigators even checked church and community records, yet no one had ever heard of her or Melodee. Security footage from a diner along the route showed Karen eating alone, looking anxious, frequently glancing toward the door as though expecting someone. Receipts from her motel stay were paid under a false name, Kay Bowers. Detectives also found an unexplained stop near an abandoned post office where she spent over an hour without making a single purchase. Her husband, Ethan, later admitted she had been acting distant since receiving a letter in the mail that she immediately hid and refused to discuss. After that, she started locking her phone and keeping a packed bag in the trunk of her car. The more the police uncovered, the less sense Karen's story made. What had driven her hundreds of miles away from home on a secret road trip? And who, or what, was she meeting along the way? The trail of receipts and the alias she used suggested deliberate planning, not confusion or panic. It was as if she had been preparing for something long before Melodee disappeared. Investigators continued peeling back the layers of Karen Buzzard's life, and what they found next was even more unsettling. Phone records revealed dozens of encrypted messages exchanged with a man known only as Rick Tanner. His number was untraceable, registered to a series of burner phones purchased across 3 different states. At first glance, their conversations seemed harmless, vague discussions about safety and timing. But when decoded through forensic software, the words hinted at a secret arrangement. Karen appeared to be following instructions, coordinating movements, and sharing updates about travel routes. Detectives soon learned that Rick Tanner wasn't a real person at all, but a fabricated identity connected to an online network involved in fraudulent bank transfers and identity theft. Several of the accounts tied to Rick had received money from foreign sources in the weeks before Melodee's disappearance. The financial trail didn't stop there. Karen's own bank records showed multiple deposits totaling thousands of dollars, none traceable to her job or any known source. When investigators questioned her about them, she claimed they were repayments from a family friend. However, there were no messages, receipts, or names to back that up. The blonde wig, the disposable phone, and her recent road trip now seemed connected by one thread: deception. Detectives began forming a chilling hypothesis. Karen might have staged her daughter's disappearance to escape debt or protect herself from someone dangerous. But another possibility loomed larger. She might have been working for the very network she once pretended to fear. Behind the image of a worried mother stood a woman whose every move now looked rehearsed. Her secret communication with Rick Tanner suggested planning, precision, and purpose. What investigators didn't yet know was whether Melodee was part of that plan or its innocent casualty. Days after the discovery of Karen's mysterious communications, detectives uncovered footage that would completely change the direction of the case. A highway surveillance camera from a rest stop in Arkansas captured a woman matching Karen's build, wearing a baseball cap and the same blonde wig seen earlier. Walking beside her was a small child, head lowered, with freshly cut short hair. Though the child's face was partially hidden, investigators noticed a key detail: the bright pink backpack Melodee was last seen with. The timestamp showed the footage was taken the morning after the supposed disappearance. Karen had told police she was still in Missouri at that time, giving interviews and assisting in searches. The video shattered her alibi. Authorities quickly sent teams to search the area, focusing on nearby motels, campgrounds, and gas stations. Witnesses remembered a woman and child buying supplies and leaving hurriedly before dawn. Security footage from one store even captured the woman glancing toward the cameras before pulling the brim of her cap lower. The car she drove matched Karen's sedan, but by the time police reached the highway exits, both the woman and child had vanished. The revelation forced investigators to reconsider everything. What if Melodee hadn't been kidnapped at all? What if Karen had taken her willingly, disguising her own daughter to avoid recognition? The disguise, the wig, the sudden road trip, all of it began to align into a calculated plan. Detectives debated whether Karen was fleeing danger or hiding from accountability. Media outlets ran the story nationwide, portraying her as a desperate mother on the run. Yet within law enforcement, another narrative emerged, one that painted her not as a victim, but as the architect of a disappearance that had fooled an entire community. The discovery of the Arkansas footage ignited a multi-state search that led investigators deeper into Karen Buzzard's movements. Using the trail of gas station receipts and highway toll data, authorities tracked her car to a remote area in eastern Tennessee. There, hidden between thick trees and overgrown dirt roads, they found a small rental cabin registered under yet another alias, Lena Brooks. When officers entered, it was clear someone had lived there recently. Food cans sat half open on the counter, 2 sleeping bags were laid side by side, and children's drawings were taped to the wall. Each drawing showed a woman and a little girl holding hands beneath a bright sun, surrounded by shadowy figures in the distance. At the bottom of every page were the initials MB. The refrigerator was stocked with basic supplies, milk, fruit, and bottled water, suggesting Karen and Melodee had been there just days before. In the bedroom closet, police found more wigs, a stack of prepaid phone cards, and several fake IDs bearing Karen's photograph under different names. There was no evidence of harm, no signs of struggle. It looked less like a crime scene and more like a hideout. Detectives began to suspect that Karen wasn't running from law enforcement, but from someone else entirely. Local residents later reported seeing a woman and young girl walking near the woods at dusk, carrying grocery bags and avoiding main roads. When questioned, none of them realized the pair were subjects of a national manhunt. For investigators, the scene at the cabin painted a picture of a mother meticulously planning her disappearance, possibly convinced she was saving her daughter from danger. Yet the unanswered question remained. What kind of threat could drive a woman to erase her entire life and vanish with her child? While investigators processed the scene at the Tennessee cabin, new leads emerged from Karen Buzzard's old neighborhood in Missouri. Detectives revisited people who had known her before Melodee's disappearance, hoping to uncover something they'd missed. One elderly neighbor, who had lived across the street for over a decade, recalled several strange incidents that now seemed significant. He remembered late-night bonfires in Karen's backyard, where she burned boxes of papers and photographs. On one occasion, he saw her digging near the fence line under the light of a lantern, then covering the area quickly when someone passed by. When asked what she had been doing, she simply smiled and said she was getting rid of the past. The neighbor also remembered something else, an offhand comment Karen once made during a casual conversation. She had whispered that Melodee wasn't supposed to exist. At the time, it sounded like a joke, but in light of the disappearance, it carried a haunting weight. Detectives began to wonder if Melodee's very identity had been falsified. A review of hospital birth records confirmed their suspicions. There was no official record of a Melodee Buzzard ever being born in the state. Even the pediatrician's files appeared incomplete, with missing vaccination data and blank fields where birth details should have been listed. Investigators began to suspect that Melodee might not have been Karen's biological daughter at all. The timeline of their lives together didn't match public documents, and no relatives could verify seeing the child before the age of 2. Everything about Karen's story, from the birth certificate to the family photos, was beginning to unravel. The possibility that Melodee had been hidden, or even stolen, sent shockwaves through the investigation, transforming the case from a missing child search into a deep and dangerous mystery about identity itself. The deeper investigators dug, the more tangled Karen Buzzard's past became. What began as a missing person case was now unraveling into a web of false names, fabricated histories, and buried secrets. Federal agents joined the investigation after discovering that Karen Buzzard was not her real identity. A background search revealed she had legally changed her name a decade earlier while living in another state under federal supervision. The records linked her to a discontinued witness protection program involving testimony against a criminal organization that specialized in forging identities and trafficking children across state lines. Her testimony had helped convict several high-level members, but others had escaped capture. After the trial, she was relocated, given a new name, and told never to contact anyone from her past. The revelation reframed everything investigators thought they knew. Melodee, they suspected, may have been born under another name, possibly during Karen's years in hiding. The missing birth certificate, the fake IDs, and the aliases now made sense. It seemed Karen's secret mission was an effort to stay ahead of those who wanted revenge for her testimony. The mysterious letter she received weeks before Melodee vanished could have been a warning. Perhaps someone had found her. Authorities now believe Karen's decision to flee wasn't random. She may have planned the disappearance to protect her daughter from the same people she once exposed. The wigs, burner phones, and hidden cabin were survival tactics, not acts of guilt. Still, one haunting question persisted. Why didn't she ask for help? Instead of trusting law enforcement, she chose isolation and deception. Maybe she believed no one could keep them safe but herself. By the time agents connected all the dots, Karen and Melodee were already gone, leaving behind only fragments of a life built entirely on secrets. Months passed without a single confirmed sighting of Karen or Melodee Buzzard. The national spotlight faded, but investigators refused to close the case. Then, in the middle of winter, a park ranger near Glacier National Park in Montana stumbled upon an abandoned vehicle half buried beneath snow. The car, weathered and rusted, matched the license plate of Karen's missing sedan. Inside, the air was cold and stale. 2 sleeping bags lay neatly folded in the back seat, along with a half-empty box of granola bars, children's shoes, and a hand-drawn map of mountain trails. On the dashboard rested a small folded note written in neat cursive, asterisk, "We're safe now. Don't look for us." Asterisk. Forensic testing confirmed Karen's fingerprints on the note, but there were no traces of Melodee's. Investigators scoured the surrounding forest for miles, using thermal drones and search dogs, but no human presence was detected. Despite the harsh conditions, there were faint signs of survival: a makeshift fire pit near a cabin ruin, footprints leading toward a creek, and a few discarded food wrappers. Locals came forward with eerie stories of a woman and a little girl who occasionally appeared in town, trading handmade crafts for canned goods. They kept to themselves, always polite, and vanished before anyone could ask too many questions. When shown photographs, several witnesses identified the woman as Karen. None could confirm the child's identity, but all mentioned the same detail: the girl's hair was shorter, her face partially hidden by a knitted hat. Law enforcement expanded the search, yet no additional evidence surfaced. To many investigators, the discovery of the car felt less like an ending and more like a message. Karen hadn't been running aimlessly. She had chosen this isolation, creating a hidden life somewhere beyond reach, where secrets could finally stay buried. Years have passed since the disappearance of Melodee Buzzard, yet her story continues to haunt those who worked the case. Files remain open, aging photographs line bulletin boards, and her mother's name still lingers in law enforcement databases as a person of interest. The note found in the Montana wilderness marked the last confirmed trace of their existence. Despite countless tips and unverified sightings, no one has ever managed to locate them. Some believe Karen and Melodee died in the unforgiving mountains, their remains buried beneath years of snow and silence. Others insist they survived, reinventing themselves once more under new identities, living quietly somewhere off the grid. Over time, public perception of Karen shifted. Once seen as a heartbroken mother, she later became the symbol of calculated deception, a woman who fooled an entire country. Yet among investigators, there remains an uneasy sense of respect for her intelligence and precision. Every move she made was deliberate, every clue carefully placed to mislead or protect. Some detectives privately admit that Karen may have succeeded in her mission, whatever it truly was. Whether it was an act of survival, revenge, or redemption, no one can say for sure. Each year, on the anniversary of Melodee's disappearance, small vigils are still held in Missouri. Photos of the smiling child are lit by candles, her name whispered by those who never stopped caring. The case stands as one of the most confounding mysteries of modern true crime, a story where the line between victim and perpetrator remains blurred. Was Karen Buzzard a dangerous fugitive or a desperate mother shielding her child from an invisible threat? The truth may never surface. What remains is a haunting legacy, a mother's secret mission carried forever into the unknown.